Over to you.
Excellent. All right, let's do this. Welcome, Brandon. Let's do a clean, proper start here.
Hit that hail
Here we
cheaters, my
go.
friend. Yeah.
All right. Hail cheaters. Welcome to the Always Cheating Podcast. My name is Josh. I'm here with Brandon. It's a rainy night in Brooklyn, Brandon.
Ooh.
Enjoying it. Yeah, it's spooky, almost spooky rain. But I'm here. How are you?
I'm great, Josh. Yeah, it's like Snoopy used to be writing on his typewriter on the top of his doghouse, like it was a cold and rainy night. Ominous tones to start game week one. I think feelings. Game week one is not totally in the books because we have Spurs, Leicester tomorrow.
Yeah, big important match, I think, in many ways.
Very much so. Because, like, to my point, feelings are kind of scattered in terms of how I think managers are feeling about the first weekend of the Premier League season. FPL is good, some bad, and a lot of just sort of like expectations met. Honestly, like the big premium assets have all more or less come through.
And even Isak, I think you can explain away pretty easily, right? Like
Yes,
that match is a 4-0 Newcastle win if
Yeah.
it isn't for that insane.
What
I mean,
could
I
have been.
suppose it was 0-0, but it felt like I felt like Newcastle were fully in control. They kind of were in control. I mean, I suppose Southampton had like 19, like they had some absurd number of corners in that match, but in general, it felt like, you know, it was like it was a 1-0 Newcastle match. They actually thought they were more likely to score in the second half than Southampton was. It was chance late.
Yeah, and so like the promoted teams have kind of gotten away with it a little bit this weekend in that Ipswich weren't made to look like mugs necessarily by Liverpool, though, it's not a lot to write home about. And then Southampton sort of by virtue of just the dark arts of that red card, were able to escape the drubbing that I think you correctly predict there, Josh. So somehow the narrative coming out of the weekend is not, oh boy, Southampton are in trouble. So the jury's still out on them. We'll see how Leicester look against Spurs. We both captained Holland, and that was an interesting sort of narrative arc of
8
just
points
like
the hard way.
And it looked good at the start when the first goal went in for Holland, and then it just kind of sputtered from there. Versus like a Salah captaincy, right, where the first half against Ipswich comes and goes, and you're kind of like, ooh, Salah kind of isolated, can't beat his man off the dribble. To bam, a goal and an assist. Two bonus.
It could have had more. I mean, could have been a 20-pointer. How did you feel? I mean, you're somebody who, when we recorded, I think this is like the fourth recording that you and I have done in the last 8 days. But when we last potted on Sunday, you had Salah on your team. You were planning on a Salah. And I'm not like trying to like rub it in here. It's just like that's what you made. Like it sounds like it. I realize it could sound that way. But you were planning on having Salah, captaining Salah. Kind of worked your way out of it as you sort of made the decision that I think a lot of people did, which is that it was just hard to have enough good players and good spots, basically, if you held on to Salah. But of course, then he has this dominant performance. So I mean, were you sort of like, were you feeling the serious pangs of regret, or were you already kind of like, I've made my bed, not gonna dwell in it?
Mild pangs after the Liverpool match, and then it was all absolved after the Arsenal match, because if I had Salah in my team, I wouldn't have had Saka. So it's like for like points with Saka. Right. The rest of the story will be told when Solanke plays tomorrow. So part of the trading Salah for Saka was to be able to free up cash to get somebody like Solanke.
You would have had João Pedro.
Yes, right. So in a sense, I'm coming out ahead in that João Pedro blanked, and now I have a shot at Solanke maybe getting me an attack.
You're at least in theory coming out ahead. There's well, you would have. I think you would have started Barco as well, right? So who didn't? Did he even come on? I know he didn't start. Maybe he came on for a point late. I'll have to double check that.
Well, yeah, I got off the Barco train before the deadline hit, so that was not an opportunity that would have come to pass. Honestly, coming out of this weekend, my biggest pang is oddly a player that was not in any of my drafts, but I just had a sneaking suspicion on. So for our Patreon supporters, we did a live stream 90 minutes ahead of the Game Week 1 deadline, and we talked about, like, who do we think the 4 biggest FPL point getters are going to be this season? I just threw it out there. I had this feeling about Havertz. Like, if Arsenal are going to have this dream season, Havertz is probably going to play a part. And I've talked negatively about Havertz many times in this podcast, but I do think this weekend further proves how integral he is going to be to that Arsenal attack this season. And like, he is really the guy who I want coming out of this weekend.
Yeah, he's an interesting player in general, right? He was for a long time, he was like a talented player in search of the right role. Never quite found it at Chelsea, sort of moved between positions, started the first half of the season for Arsenal, kind of doing the same thing. And then at some point, Arteta decided, you know what, I'm just going to, Gabriel Jesus is going to be a bench option, right? Like a kind of, bring him on for late firepower and energy and all that stuff. And then I'm going to start Havertz, and suddenly Havertz just feels like a great fit up front, and I think maybe we all sort of I don't know. For one thing, his price made it tricky, right? 8 million was almost like 0.5 million too expensive. It was like, just in terms of the teams that a lot of us were putting together, it was hard to fit him in. And so I think that was, because I thought the same thing on Saturday. I was like, God, he's so good. And it's like you can get an 8 million forward for one of the best teams for, it's not a bad price at all. And I just, it's hard to imagine him not playing as a starting forward moving forward, right? How do you drop Gabriel Jesus, who struggles to convert, into that team?
And Gabriel Jesus coming on as a sub, he was playing like a man who was in a position to really justify his existence, which was rough. And I don't think he had the greatest cameo. Now, I don't envy the position that he's in, but I think like after Newcastle's plum fixture in game week 2, Isak to Havertz could be quite a popular move. And then that's part of the justification of going bigger up top. So Solanke at 7.5 makes it, it certainly shades. Like, you have Chris Wood who's 6 million, I think. And it's not like it's impossible to do a double move to get to Havertz right there. But
why move Chris Wood? I mean, he's he was like my star this weekend.
Well, so how are you feeling? How are you feeling about your team coming out of this weekend?
I'm feeling pretty good. Let me share it with you so we can take a look together. You and I, Brandon, we'll journey through this team, the story of Josh Landon's team together, Brandon. My
struggle.
Yeah, so I went back and forth a lot this week. I mean, this is always the problem with doing these Sunday pods, is they're a full 5 days right before the deadline, and it's if you're at all kind of obsessive about this game, right? Like, if you're obsessive enough that you're listening to this podcast right now, right, or watching us on YouTube, that is you understand this level of obsession, right? Which is very hard to just let your team go and be like, okay, this is who I want to roll with for game week 1. It's just hard not to kind of keep tinkering. And so I'd say like a lot of the players that are, I'm sorry, I've got my game week 2 squad here. Let me go to the points for game week 1.
Show us the points. Let's see what we came to see.
Let's see the points.
We'll talk about our bus team later on in the episode.
I would say, of the 3 players in my team that you registered the most disgust for, I would say I won 2 and lost 1. Okay, so I'm going to give myself a D for Nkuku. I'm going to give myself a B+ for Flecken, and I'm going to give myself an A for Chris Wood. Does that seem fair to you?
Sure.
Yeah. And Flecken, I think I kind of got what I thought I would get from him, which is a bunch of saves, right? It's like kind of what you're like, not a lot of clean sheets, but if I could consistently get 4 points from him, I would be delighted. He almost nicked a bonus point.
Palace's heart was just not in that match after the whole debacle with Eze's free kick being called off. Strange match. But the takeaway, I think, was for sure, like, Brentford are up for it this season, and without Ivan Toney, they'll be fine.
So have you softened a bit on Flecken?
No, I mean, how could you soften on Flecken after that howler where he kind of left an open goal in the first half? And the guy's a stone cold moron. But he got his saves, and I think that's fine. Like, goalkeepers are not going to be the rocket scientists in the squad.
It's not.
We're playing with fire. Like, one of the other sort of regrets I have coming out of this weekend was 4.5 goalkeepers. It really is just, going back to the whole rocket science thing. This is true, like, alchemy, and like, it can truly, like, just blow up. The chemistry can be very volatile. And you see it with Flecken and Henderson, like a mix of howlers and easy saves, and one has twice as many points as the other. And you really just have to have metal to stick it out with any 4.5 guy.
Yeah, although I mean, the guy you were looking at the most was Jordan Pickford, right? And he was, I mean, he
smoked. He got smoked.
I think the real problem is that you really have to go to 5.5 to get the ones that you want, right? And 5.5 keepers create their own problems. I mean, for one thing, it's just a lot of extra money for players that don't tend to get a lot of bonus points, right? Because if you're a keeper on a Man City. Actually, hilariously enough, Ederson did get a bonus point today, despite playing like one of the shakiest matches of his career, right? But there's no he bobbled everything. It was ridiculous, but there were enough like kind of softballs into his hands that he was able to get the save points and nick a bonus. But in general, the problem is not just that you're rarely going to get like massive returns from them. The other problem is that it locks up those spots for you, right? Like if you if you want to have, basically like, even defenders on a team like Man City can get you points in two ways, right? They can get attacking returns, or they can get clean sheets. And obviously, like there are times this season where you're going to want to have two Man City midfielders as well, and a defender, and it just sort of locks you out a little bit. And it's kind of the same thing with Raya, right? At a 5.5, I don't necessarily want my 3 Arsenal spots. I don't want one of those to go to a goalkeeper, right? Because I'm just not typically going to get. Although, again, hilariously, Raya did get. He ended up 8 points as well. So what do we know?
I mean, I will grant you, as I was kind of intoning, that coming out of the Brentford v Crystal Palace match, Brentford definitely the stronger team, and they look kind of like there is that continuity with Brentford that always has helped them in the Premier League. And Crystal Palace, you aren't really sure where this story is going because there are a couple of unsettled players, Gahey among them.
Yeah.
What do I expect in the coming weeks? So that's like the one red flag you raise with Crystal Palace and Henderson.
Yeah, the Gahey news could make things tricky for sure. I thought I mean, we can talk more about that match later, but I thought Eze was great. And I don't have him in my squad right now, and I certainly feel more anxious going into the next couple of strong game weeks for Crystal Palace not having him, right? Because you can't just look at returns with these players, right? He had a goal chalked off for a foul, like away from play, right? Didn't necessarily influence the free kick at all, and had a couple of chances late. I mean, I don't know how good those chances really were, but he at least forced a couple saves out of Flecken, and he just like with Mobile, I think the commenter said it's like he floats through the box. It's like he's sort of he's just so silky smooth, Brandon, as you like to say.
Totally.
So yeah, so I've got
it's like he's got those wheelie shoes on, that the kids wear. The little wheelies.
Well, my 7-year-old has some wheelies, Quinn. So there you go. So I'm on 65 points with Sun to go. So I guess that's 15 points above the average. And I feel, pretty good in general about my squad. I mean, Lewis Hall came through with 5 points, which I think, all things considered, with the red card, I feel like that's a pretty good return. Saliba, nice, easy 6, Jota 8, Saka 12, and then Chris Wood with 9. That was really the big one for me, was sort of taking what I thought was I wouldn't necessarily say it was like a risky punt, but just sort of, I'm not like hugely enthusiastic about having him, right? But it was like he's super cheap and they have good fixtures, and that was like enough for me to make the move. And I actually think, and I was sort of joking about this late last week when I was talking about Wood, is that there's just something about the name Chris Wood that is so dull. And I know it like lends itself to puns and things like that, but in general, I just think if his name was, Bakary Sanya or something like that, I just think that he would be a much more, exciting player to own in fantasy. I know Bakary Sanya was a defender, but you get the point, Brandon. It get a cooler name, Alex Song, right? You give me any of these old Samir Nasri, you give me any circa 2010 Arsenal player. I mean, obviously, if his name was Robin Van Persie, he'd be like 70% owned. That's a given, right? Like, do you agree? Okay, this is like a genuine question. If Chris Wood's name was Robin Van Persie, would his ownership be twice as high as it is right now?
Here's the deal. I'm on Chris Wood's Wikipedia page right now, and I think if he were to just go full like English player, where you put your full name, including like your middle, and hyphenate it however you want, this is where he needs to be. Christopher Grant Wood. He does sound like a very regal striker at that point. If you were to just go Grant Wood on the back, and then we call him Christopher Grant Wood, that works for me.
What about if we would call him CG Wood? Like C period, G period. That'd be kind of cool, right? He's New Zealand, right? He's a
Kiwi.
He's Kiwi. But just back to my squad. I feel good about it. I think the two spots that are worrisome. The first is Kwanzaa, and I don't actually know what I'm going to do yet on Kwanzaa. I mean, the comments from Slot coming out of that match were really disheartening, right? Which was that basically he lost so many challenges that
put him on Front Street.
Yeah, he did. He was like, Kwanzaa lost so many challenges that it meant we could never take control of the match. And that's why I had to take him off at halftime, which is really rough. Yeah. Someone was feeding Ben Dinnery some nonsense about him being injured, I think. It sounded like it was really a performance thing. So that's obviously a huge concern. But sometimes those harsh words are just like,
get it together because I need you.
Exactly. And I think there's still a chance that we see him start on Sunday. And it was kind of like a like tighten up kind of thing, right? I don't know that Slot is that kind of ruthless. That I honestly, it worked out. I mean, so, but whether that's a sort of one match sort of thing, I mean, there's a reason why he picked Kwanzaa over Konate, right? And I don't even know if I could really articulate it myself, right? I'm just not enough of I'm not knowledgeable enough about how Arne Slot likes his center backs to play. Hopefully by, within a few months I might be, right? But at the moment it's sort of, but it was, the rumors were that he preferred Kwanzaa, right? Over Konate. So I think there's still a chance there. If not, I'd be starting Lewis Hall away to Bournemouth. And I think that's fine. I mean, Lewis Hall took some free kicks, took some corners, 4.5 million. I don't really mind starting Lewis Hall in that match. I mean, if you had Lewis Hall, you'd probably be fine with that too, right?
Easily, yes.
Yeah, so totally fine.
The concern with Lewis Hall and then Livramento's slightly different story with Trippier competing for that spot is the Schär red card means Dan Burn is kind of stuck in central defense and just to cover for the lack of center backs that Newcastle now have. So Lewis Hall is just kind of going to be a fixture in that fullback spot now.
Yeah, for at least 3 weeks, right? And so that means, and if he plays well over those 3 weeks, even if they sign Gehi, it's just hard for me to imagine him sort of losing his spot, right? I mean, if he plays poorly, then that's one thing. If he plays poorly, I'm not going to want to start him in my team anyway, right? And so it's sort of, it kind of gives me a little longer kind of window to evaluate him. But I think at 4.5, he's a good buy there. And then I guess the other one is Nkuku, right? Who had a pretty indifferent performance. Now, I don't know how much you sort of weigh the Man City part of it, right? Like Man City is arguably the best or first or second best defense in the league after Arsenal. You never want to see someone like him, kind of go off in the 57th minute. They're in a weird spot where they have a European Conference qualifier, a two-legged qualifier to get into the European Conference League. So I don't really know who's playing. I mean, their squad goes 90 deep, so they should be able to field, an entirely different 11, if they wish to. But I mean, obviously, if he starts in that match, that is horrible for me, right? And he may have to go. And so I'm a little on the fence about what to do with Nkuku. At the moment, my inclination is not to knee jerk and to hold. The only reason that I would do it would be if he looked like he was about to drop in price. And at this point in the season, dropping 0.1 is like dropping 0.5, right? I mean, it completely eliminates all of the 6.5 million options that I could transfer him to. At the moment, he was at like 1% to go up. Like there's no real difference on Nkuku at the moment. So I'm not super worried about it at the moment. And so I probably will just hold. If I were to move him out, it would probably be for Emile Smith-Rowe. And that would be kind of like the Chris Wood thing. It'd just be sort of like a fixture play, right? But I think we'll also know a little more once we see the Leicester Spurs match tomorrow, right? We're recording this on Sunday evening. And I mean, if Leicester look just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, like, if Spurs kind of walk, it's hard to say, right? I do think like a night match for, for a just promoted team. And I think the crowd's going to be great. I think that's going to give Leicester a little bit of a lift. I mean, I don't see this as like a 4-0 thrashing from Spurs, right? I do think that Leicester will make it a competitive match tomorrow, but we'll see, right? And so I think that really dictates what I do with my transfers. What do you think about Nkunku? I guess maybe, yeah, like if you had him, would you be worried about transferring him around? Would you plan to hold? Like, what's your?
I thought his performance against City was a little strange. He was playing on the left, and Nico Williams through the middle. Every time Nkunku got the ball, he seemed super hesitant to take Rico Lewis on and try to beat him on the dribble, which, I guess maybe when you're looking at Jeremy Doku on the opposite end of the pitch trying to take everybody on, you're like, well, what's Nkunku about? What are we trying to do here? He just seemed very hesitant and cautious. That said, there were a lot of moments in which I thought Chelsea successfully stretched the play and Nkunku got into positions that could result in attacking points. So, there were ups and downs. Overall, I feel kind of relieved having watched that performance, not having Nkunku and not having to think about this.
Yeah.
Now, the other part of it is Nico Williams. Like, did Nico Williams do enough to justify him continuing to play in the 9?
Nicholas Jackson.
Yeah, Nicholas Jackson. Sorry, right. Nico Jackson. If last season is any indication, Nico Jackson will finish on like 14 goals this season, 14 of the weirdest goals you've ever seen.
Yeah.
But he's just like not going to help Nkunku at all.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's a way in which you play Neto, Nkunku, and somebody else on the right,
and just don't play Nicholas Jackson. I mean, totally.
Yeah, I wonder. So I feel like there are various scenarios in which Nkunku remains an incredibly powerful FPL asset at 6.5. But right now, it's definitely wait on that.
I think so too. And they got the hardest match out of the way, right? I mean, it's one of the reasons, obviously, that we were all kind of hesitant to have Nkunku or kind of any Chelsea assets to start the season was because they played Man City at home. But when you look ahead to the upcoming fixtures, it's a really nice run for Chelsea, right? I mean, Wolves away. I mean, I thought Wolves really did not. They had a couple of moments, I suppose, but it was not. I didn't think it was an especially strong performance away to Arsenal, and then Palace at home, Bournemouth away, West Ham, Brighton. It's a nice run, and so I'm not looking at what's ahead for Nkunku and thinking, oh, this guy's got to go. I think even I was looking at his foot mob stats. I mean, they're fine, right? I mean, he completed 100% of his passes, which is a nice sign. I mean, it's not like this guy is going to be dropped. I don't think that there's anything like that. I mean, I think even the early sub to me is more about fitness than it is about him not sort of accomplishing his goals or whatever, for Chelsea in the match.
Totally. The goal now is, can management get as much out of him as he can give? And in that City match, like the goal is probably just to like take a few body blows in that match and get on with the season.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to look at your team. I thought I'd quickly look ahead to game week 2. If I make no transfers, this is what my squad looks like right now. And the question would be whether I risk Quansah, right? Because if there's any doubt about our center back, there's always a chance they could come on as a late sub, right? That happens a lot with center backs who are sort of third choice, right? And so, if it's like a 2-0 match, right, it's a great opportunity to shore up your defense. So that would be kind of the only spot. But otherwise, I actually really like the look of my squad going into game week 2. I don't see any kind of urgent kind of needs to make any changes or anything like that. So ideally, I would just hold my transfer going into game week 3.
Do it. Hold it. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there have been. I don't see any true emergencies here.
Yeah, exactly. No emergencies. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing. I want to see your squad, how you're doing, how you're feeling emotionally, physically. I'd love to know how you're feeling physically too. I worry about your health. You never work out. It's.
I feel strong.
Yeah,
I feel strong. I feel totally. Yeah, I'm peak performance going into game week 1. let's see, is this my points total? Yeah, okay, so here we go. I'm on 55 points, 5 above the average. Generally it's a very average game week. I have 2 left to play, Pedro Porro and Solanke against Leicester on Monday, so that will I'll definitely hold above the average, so that's good. But I don't feel like I nailed anything in this game week. And in that way, I would say this was the goal of game week 1. Survive game week 1. FPL really doesn't start until now. Now we have the baseline, and now we can start reacting and tweaking. The fact that
we've seen the flop, you know.
Right. Now what are you going to push in? Are you going to
check whatever.
Check, raise, fold. I don't know. I'm not.
It's easier with like 5-card stud or something, or like there's some game where you can call for cards works a little better as an analogy here, right? Like you're going to take 1, 2. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean my midfield with Diogo Jota and Saka, I feel, and both of those picks came in decently. And then Gordon and Smith Rowe, it's just sort of like the 3-pointers feel like minor victories, if that. It's not like I saw any yellow cards in the midfield. Where I do feel like I may have dropped points is in my defense with Dean Henderson in goal, and then Konsa was just subject to the Matty Cash experience for Villa, where Cash had some, I don't like Matty Cash. I think he's a weakness for the Villa defense. He did have some good moments. He had that great ball that he played through in the early in the first half, which could have resulted in a goal. Konsa, though, is just kind of like looking on in wonders. Cash went crashing into Souček for that penalty. But you can't get too worked up about an away clean sheet wipeout, both for Henderson and for Konsa in game week 1 with both of these teams trying to figure things out. I think with Villa in particular, Onana looked tremendous in the midfield. Like, goal aside, I thought he was just this incredible presence in the midfield. And it was a different vibe than Douglas Luiz. And I feel like this is going to be good for clean sheets for Aston Villa going forward. It just does feel like there's some betting in just around the whole squad and shaking off some of the rust. Ollie Watkins was a total ghost during that game.
Watkins and Palmer, I think both were struggled a little bit as kind of late returners, right?
Totally.
Saka got a little more time in preseason, which I think probably helped him a little bit.
And I think Saka just gets to come into a squad that is already a home to him. He's been I just feel like there's just a comfort level, and Saka getting to start his first match at home in front of his fans would have further bolstered him. Gordon and Smith Rowe. So I don't know if I have a ton to say. I think with Smith Rowe, I could, I'll spin a tail. I thought Fulham looked sharp for like the first 25 minutes against Manchester United. And then as we were talking with our friend Nick, as soon as Ten Hag broke out the tricolored pen, I don't know if you caught this, he had his little notebook and he had one of those pens where you can clip in the green ink, the
someone
blue
was
ink,
just
the red
asking
ink.
about that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Then, he started making changes and tweaks, and the rest was history for Manchester United. But I thought Smith Rowe was an incredible pocket of space guy. Like, he was really finding big pockets in the midfield to drive into. The issue that Fulham had was Sasha Lukic just cannot cover the same amount of ground that Palhinha has for them in the last couple of seasons. So it was harder for them to immediately transition into counterattacks. And is Adama Traore a starter? Like, he had some great moments going forward, but then he was invisible when there was transition or they needed to defend against Manchester United. All told, though, I thought Smith Rowe he exhibited the all the components of being the center of attacking moves for Fulham. He will get the right touches in the right positions to produce FPL returns. He's going to be frustrating because it's going to come in drips, I think, with Smith Rowe.
Yeah.
So,
it's a little, it's interesting. It's actually kind of like the Nkunku thing where they both got taken off early. They both, they weren't maybe like the best version of them. And it's sort of, and I think they're both kind of what we might consider like kind of flyers for FPL transfers, right? Like sort of players that you, I mean, because then Cuckoo obviously has done it in other leagues. I mean, Smith Rowe scored double-digit goals in the Premier League. So I mean, they both have a track record, but it's just not anything we've seen in a couple of years, right? And so it might just take both them a little while to get kind of fully embedded into the starting 11, which I think they both firmly are.
And I think Anthony Gordon gets an incomplete report card here. We didn't really see the most of him. So yeah, then we'll see. I mean, my game week kind of hinges upon this Spurs match, which is always fun to go into the last match, and you could really soar up the charts if everything goes okay.
Yeah. Keeps us in a good mood in the pod, right? Because we there's always the possibility that tomorrow is just going to be amazing.
Absolutely. Yes. And we'll be, I guess we'll just have to do an emergency pod if Pedro Porro gets a clean sheet.
Yeah.
And then we can all gloat.
Well, let's take a quick look at I want to see what your game week 2 squad. Did you just log out?
No. You always hit that magic moment where it logs you out. And now I've got to do the two-factor. All right, brother. Here we go.
Oh, well, we can all see your number. This is fantastic. Oh, I guess it doesn't really matter because it just changes all the time.
Yeah, well, yeah. If I get hacked tomorrow, then so be it. I'll go with God. All right. So, all right. Game week 2. I'm benching Konsa. The expectation, for the Arsenal match. Villa were very capable of giving Arsenal a match last season, and I don't think it's too different this season. But just on the form we saw this weekend, Arsenal are just back to their winning ways, and Villa look like they're just kind of like trying to shift through the gears a little bit. So I'm happy to bench Konsa. And, my main man, Brereton Diaz, is just going to have to wait another week for his debut.
Would you consider starting Brereton Diaz over Anthony Gordon? And the reason I suggest that is just because Gordon's home and away splits are so sharp that I wonder if, Brereton Diaz, the man of the weekend, possibly. Inciting such rage out of Fabian Schär. But I do think that, he got a yellow card, a lot going on with him. He got thoroughly booed as he went off the pitch. But I do think that Brereton Diaz at home to Forest might actually be a slightly better start than Gordon. But obviously it's close.
I think it's very close, and it is tempting. And it's just like what I was encouraged, like going in on Brereton Diaz, encouraged by that Newcastle performance, and that here's a guy who's just going to make his presence felt. He's going to be visible. You can get these guys who, they're sort of like, for hire mercenary guys, and if it's not the right fit, they're just invisible. So I don't think that's going to be the case with him. But Gordon, I'm going to roll with him. Better player, better team. You're right. The home and away splits are an issue for him historically, but this is where I'm at right now. We'll see if any lightning.
All right, I won't hold your feet to the fire too strongly then. All right, so let's move on then, Brandon. Let's talk a little bit about. Do we have anything else to talk about on the? Oh, yes, so possible transfers. It looks like both of us would probably just hold our transfers if we could, right? So let's assume that is what we're going to do. All right, I want to talk more. We're actually going to go through slightly. Now that we have actual matches to talk about, I want to kind of go through those matches a little bit to the extent that we haven't done so already on the pod. So we're gonna go through that. I just want to quickly though shout out. We have a ton of new Patreon supporters, and I want to say thank you so much to everyone who supported the podcast in the last week. If you would like, and I thought the Discord was fantastic this weekend too. It was really, I thought it was very democratic too. I felt like you had just tons of different voices and people talking in there, and it's a very civil. And I know that increasingly people get very frustrated about like. I don't know, like about just like branding. Like it seems like there's a lot of branding going on, and like sort of selling their brand or whatever. But like it feels like it's like a nice place where people are actually talking about the matches that are happening right there. So if you want to support the podcast, if you want to get on a fun Discord where you can watch matches with other people, you want to plan meetups, you want to join mini leagues, I think it's not too late to join a couple of those. You go to patreon.com/alwayscheat. It's not too late to join our mini league for that matter, our Patreon league, or our super league. So Patreon, we do an extra podcast each week. We also do kit contest. This lovely kit that I have behind you and that you're wearing right now, Brandon, was from last year's Premier League, non-Premier League second half kit contest, the NLPL GW2H, something like that. We had some acronym.
Yes,
that we used
right.
for
Beautiful name. Rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, exactly. So patreon.com/alwaysteams where you can go. Quick thank you to some new and upgraded patrons, though, Brandon. We like to thank the new ones each week on the pod. I'll do this quickly, though, so we can get into the game week 1 talk. Thank you to Timothy McCarthy, Chris Akins, Grant Winter, Richard Curtis Price, Chris Brashear, Anders Halverson. I'm doing good job so far with these names.
Great job.
Just nailing them. Tron Solberg, Matthew Grove, just S, Brandon. Eamon Hogan, Timu Pookie. That's right. The man himself, Brandon Pookie's finally after all this love that we've given him, he's finally supporting the podcast.
Didn't even come in at the Pookie patron tier. That's odd.
That's true. Yeah, he went a little step higher, didn't he? Per Burkestam, Punk in Drubik, F.A. Desjardins, Sam F., and Devin Tyler. So thank you sincerely to everyone who supported the podcast this week. And Brandon, it's also not too late to join the Hub, is it? You want to talk a little bit about Fantasy Football Hub?
Yeah, it's the perfect time to join the Hub. fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. One-stop shop for everything you need to get your fantasy squad ready week in, week out. And you can join the Hub for the whole season with 50% off at the tier of your choice. That link is still live.
I checked it before the pod to make sure. 100% still live.
Just getting in under the wire. fantasyfootballhub.co.uk/always is where you want to go. And we put a live link in the description of the pod or on YouTube, wherever you are. What can you do with the Hub? Well, you can do all sorts of things. You can use their AI to rate your team. Just pop in your team ID, get real-time feedback. Gives you lots of interesting ideas of changes you could make to your squad week in, week out. Also, this is the Hub guarantee. Win your mini league or get your money back. That's a real promise, and trust me, they mean it. You also got expert team reveals from real famous FPL managers around the space. So if AI is not your bag, you can also see what the real managers at the top of the game are doing and see how their game week 1 squads perform. Also, Ben Krellen, who has this incredible transfer planning spreadsheet and those double game week predictions. You can see all of his activity on the Hub.
Yeah.
So check them out. Again.
He's still in deep mourning, isn't he, about the loss of double game weeks? I feel like that would be...
but they're still going to be here. It's not like there's not going to be any.
Greats, Brandon, all the greats have multiple gears. Okay. And I want to see gear 2. It's like Luffy D Monkey, Brandon. I want to see gear 2, gear 3, gear 4, and ultimately, of course, gear 5.
Oh, wow. Is this the season? Is this the season when Ben Krellen goes electric?
Yeah, exactly. I want to see it. So, but yeah, it's a fantastic. So fantasyfootballhub.co.uk/always where you can go to get 50% off. There's a bunch of different ways to sign up to. You can even just try it for a month if you just want to see if it's for you, or you can sign up for the whole season. All right, Brandon, let's get into our takeaways from game week 1. Okay. I know I don't want to run through everything twice here, but I think we can kind of go through these matches a little bit. I think it's a useful exercise, especially if people are thinking about possible transfers they want to make. I watched a ton of matches this week. It was actually great. I mean, especially as a parent, game week 1 is the time when you're really allowed to be like, sorry, I need to be by a television set, for the next couple of days. So I was able to
you anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So, I actually thought that the Man United Fulham match was different than a lot of kickoff matches that we've seen in recent seasons, in the sense that it was kind of like, it was arguably kind of sloppy, but there were very few fouls. It was very back and forth. It was like, it wasn't like the highest quality, but it was incredibly entertaining. Like, I found that to be a very entertaining opening match. I really enjoyed myself. I'm not a Fulham supporter, so even the late goal was kind of nice in a way because it meant everyone got to go home happy. You didn't necessarily want a 0-0 to start the season. It was, from a fantasy perspective, I thought Bruno was terrific. Really unlucky to get 0 bonus points. This is kind of the thing with Bruno. I mean, it feels like he's got a little bit of the Gabriel Jesus. Feels like it does feel at times like he should do more with these like chances when he's 1-on-1 with the keeper. But I don't know. There's not much else you can want from your fantasy asset except to have them creating a ton of chances, being one-on-one with the keeper. Like more times than not, those shots go in, right? And so it was a little unlucky there. I thought if you had Garnacho, like especially if you hadn't seen, there was a kind of a late leak that Garnacho was not going to start, but he was still in, many teams. Not everybody hangs around Twitter 10 minutes before the deadline, to see if Garnacho was going to start or not. You got incredibly unlucky not to get a goal from him late in the match. I mean, that was like one of the all-time. I don't know. Like I don't know. I don't want to go too far on this one, but that was a wild missed chance.
Bad pass from Rashford is my take on
a little behind him. That's true, but
and there was no reason for that pass from Rashford to be as loose as it was.
There was no reason for him to pass. He should have just scored. Yeah.
That's the state of Rashford's game right now. He's got no confidence and no touch at the moment.
So what do you think about? Yeah,
I think the read on Bruno is right, but the concern there is, with Xerxes coming in and scoring his goal, and now they could just start with a number 9, whereas Ten Hag didn't feel like he had that possibility going against Fulham. Bruno was like a false 9, and that was great. And I think that resulted in Bruno will still get his chances, but I wonder if he's going to be a little bit more. If he's just going to be deeper, and those chances might be lessened going forward. But if I had Bruno, I'd feel done dirty, but I'd obviously hold him.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of said my piece on the Fulham thing. I think Muniz, he had this incredible moment where he took the ball out of the air on his chest and tried a bicycle kick. We saw him score a bicycle kick last season, and just an incredible athlete.
Yeah.
And I think he just didn't get enough looks. And I really am going to be looking at Fulham next game week against Leicester to see what can you guys actually do. And if they're struggling against Leicester, then I feel like maybe we were a little overeager on Fulham attacking assets. But I don't want to be negative there. I'm feeling optimistic. So just sort of like question marks that I have.
Yeah, and defensively, it was an interesting match. It was kind of I would actually probably come away feeling better about Fulham's defense. I mean, they really, honestly, they were a little. Maybe a little lucky to only concede 1 in that match. I haven't looked at the FootMob XG.
Leno bailed them out on a couple of occasions, though Leno did make a couple of errors. Anthony Robinson, I thought, had a bad game, certainly a bad first half, whereas Kenny Tete was playing out of his skin. I think that you see a better match in the future from Robinson and Tete and Castagna. That competition is really driving them. So, and additionally, Calvin Bassey, I thought, had a bad match too. So I just feel like Fulham have another level to go up. I wouldn't judge them too harshly on that defensive performance.
Yeah, and I so it was a 2 point, almost 2.5 xG performance for Man United. So and it was like 0.5, I think, for Fulham. So quite a bit lower, but I would say it was a sort of, there were 0.44 for Fulham. I would say the first half, Man United were pretty dominant, unlucky maybe not to score anything. And then I would say there was a stretch from maybe the 45th minute to the 75th minute or something like that, where I thought Fulham were really in control and had a good chance of actually scoring and taking the lead in the match. I thought they were actually probably the better side for like about a third of the match. And then you had the Xerxes goal, and then it was kind of over. I felt like Man United sort of shut down shop, and I felt like Fulham's chances were pretty limited after that. And so
there was that one major opportunity in which Andreas Pereira failed to pass to Iwobi. His pass got intercepted. That was really the moment for Fulham.
Breakaways. I thought in general, it does feel like Traore and Iwobi might be too many non-scoring wingers, right? It's like, I mean, I know Willian just got too old to start for Fulham, but he's just a better, like, I don't know, he's a better scorer than either of those two guys. I mean, Traore can't score at all, and Iwobi is okay, like he's mediocre, like, but I would certainly wouldn't call him like a scoring winger, right?
I think Harry Wilson should get an opportunity over Traore on the right. Iwobi is a great connector, and
had a great season last year.
I think he's the right fit for the left-hand side, but we'll see. A few options there.
All right, then brings us to the Saturday matches. Liverpool, basically a tale of, not to be cliche, but a tale of two halves, right? They were, it was a real mediocre match. They took off Kwanzaa and suddenly everything opened up. I thought, I mean, besides the Salah thing, which is like, yeah, Salah's great. He's going to continue to be great. I am certainly nervous not having him. Although, again, the fact that we got returns from Haaland and Saka, and it's sort of, we're going to survive it, right? I don't have Salah this game week, and I'm 15 points above the average. Like, you don't need any one particular player, right? And I would be amenable to even dropping Haaland possibly after game week 2, right? Like, it's I don't know that you probably need one of them, right? But do you need both? I don't think so necessarily. Although, yeah, I mean, although game week 2 is going to be a test of that, right? Because they both have excellent fixtures. I thought the real story though was Diogo Jota, who got more minutes than I was expecting. I think he got something like 70 plus. Was it 77? Something like that. And I thought he played really well. Had 2 great chances, scored one of the 2, right? Had a Trent cross that he should have converted. It's a hard chance. Like, it looks easy, like when you're watching in real time, but obviously, like, that's a cross through traffic, right? And it's got, you kind of have to put your head in just the right spot at just right angle. And so, I mean, obviously, like, he's paid to do that or whatever, but like, I thought
his job,
right? But I mean, then a couple minutes later, he does exactly that, right? Salah plays through a pass, and he just kind of side foots it, perfectly.
Salah is just a very interesting player. Will always remain that. Like,
yeah.
The debate about Salah coming into game week 1 was, well, he's playing wider and wider. He's less of a forward, more of a winger these days, and he's struggling to take on players. What's the upside versus his 12.5 price tag? And you saw all of those criticisms in this Ipswich match. But then you also see what separates Salah as a fantasy asset is that sheer determination. And the goal that he scored, just following through in that play, and I've seen him score that goal so many times where the ball just squirts out from a defender and he's the one who's there. So, it's any week that you get away without owning Salah is not because he's a bad asset. It's just that you kind of got lucky, and this game week was a good reminder. Now, the what we were talking about with Saka still holds here in that there are pathways around Salah, and now we can just get Chris Wood instead of Haaland. So there's pathways around Haaland as well.
Save what is that, 9 million? That's I could turn my 4.5 million. Gosh, that's kind of amazing. Yeah, you could just turn Haaland into Wood after game week 2.
Yeah,
save 9 million, and then turn your 4.5 million midfielder into Mo Salah. Simple, easy.
My vibe coming out of that Liverpool match though was Alisson he was weirdly like the guy I wanted, where I don't want to pay the premium for Trent for some unknown reason. I just don't. And then there's some obviously weird rotation happening around Van Dijk. So Becker seems like kind of a Becker, and I'll call him that because it's one of my favorite Ted Danson shows of all time.
A great TV show has turned into a great goalkeeper.
I don't know. It's sort of like, I get it. We could. Nobody wants to hear us talk more about the non-value of a 5.5 goalkeeper, but when comparing him to somebody like Trent or even Van Dijk, I'm kind of like, well, is it kind of a deal to get Alisson?
No, I mean, I don't know. Not really. I mean, I think you'd be better off just trying to find the extra of 1.5 and getting and getting Trent, or even the 0.5 and have Van Dijk, right? Because I mean, Van Dijk's always a threat on set pieces, right?
Yeah, so is Alisson. He scored him.
That's true. That's true.
You get 10 points for those goals.
If West Brom were still in the Premier League, that's true. Yeah, with the extra points for goalkeeper goals, that's true. They just send them up. They need to start sending these keepers up.
100%. Yeah,
that should be some kind of rule, shouldn't it? Like, there's like maybe like you can get a now there's like 10 minutes of extra time in every match. Like maybe you can get like a second keeper on the pitch after the 90th minute or something like that, and your keeper gets to play.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, we're gonna bring that back. What was the card? The gray card, or what was
blue card?
What was it? Blue card.
Was it a blue card for like, I don't know if the blue card
was like a 10-minute like a penalty box card.
Yeah, pass.
Yeah,
pass.
All right. Well, let's move on.
Speaking of officiating, I've got an axe grind. Everyone comes joins for us to just like grind axes or whatnot.
Grind away.
So VAR.
Yeah.
We know the score here. Why is it now that every commentator, when anything happens on the field, they are compelled to say, "Don't VAR will be looking at that. Oh, VAR is looking at that." Like we know, we're not. Like, why do you need to just keep talking about it?
It is grating. It's because they hate it. They hate it as much as most of us do, right? And so
shut up.
Yeah, I know. I think they really. They're just so annoyed that, and like I remember when Holland scored today, there was a VAR review, and then they were like, "Oh, now there's a second VAR review for a separate incident." And you could just the like disgust was just like dripping off of them.
They need to come up with something else to say. They should. These people. They need to talk about something else.
Yeah, when semi-automated offside comes, which is supposed to be here, and they like haven't quite got it ready yet. I'm kind of excited about it because I love the images you get with something. It looks like Han Solo when he went into the when he's in Cloud City. Yeah, when he goes into Carbonite, right? You've ever seen the like? It's like when they do the semi-automated, it's like you see like the body. It's like it looks like a Carbonite body, and so that's how they judge the two. The two images. Yeah, it's incredible.
I wonder if a player would ever get trapped inside of the automated offsides. It'd be an incredible glitch.
That would be incredible.
Nico Jackson just like frozen in the 25-yard line, just like I can't move, guys.
Well, what was who was the player in the Forest Bournemouth match who got injured? It was Danilo, right? And it was because of a delayed offside flag. That was like the match played on and he got injured after that. And it was like everyone has been talking about this forever. Like this is something that's going to happen if they keep doing this. And there was a moment in you got me on this because I'm like not talking about VAR this season, but you got me on this. But there was a moment. Baby. There was a moment in the Chelsea Man City match where Nicholas Jackson was so obviously offside that both squads played like an incredibly half-assed 30 seconds of match while everyone knew that the offside flag was coming, and it was like
I was shocked that he was actually not that far offside.
Yeah, he was. It was closer. It was closer than I thought. But at some point, you're like, well, why even have these people if they're not going to call obvious offside? I mean, at the very least, it was still obvious in the end, right?
They're just chaperones at that point.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't make any sense. So Arsenal Wolves, I don't think we have too much to talk about here, except to say that I think that we really need to think of Arsenal as. It's just one match, but. They seem like a team that could actually win the title this year, right? It's kind of the same squad that's gotten closer and closer the last 2 years. Their defense is incredible, and I'm going to bring this back to fantasy because the defense is incredible. I think you just start their defenders every single week, right? Even away to Villa in game week 2, it's a tough match, but you just start them. I thought they looked, so really solid defensively, really solid up front. Saka looks like it's going to be really hard not to own him in fantasy. Obviously, it's hard to have everybody, right? And that's a question we're going to have to. Someone asked a question on our Discord for the pod today, and I actually don't know if I can quite answer it yet. And the question was like, what combination of expensive players do you want, right? You just can't own all of them, right? You cannot have Salah, Haaland, Saka, Son, Trent. Like you just have to kind of have like 3 out of the 5 or whatever, and just sort of, and just hope that it's enough to get by. And it really is, because no one can have them. It's not like there's like one person who has figured out this cheat code, right? If you do it, you just have a bunch of garbage 4.5 million players who do nothing for you. Yeah, bad guys, bad dudes. But I think, like you said, I think that everyone's on the table now, fantasy-wise. I think you could have 2 defenders in Saka. I think you could have a Havertz, Saka, insert defender X, right? There's like, I know you probably want Raya, Brandon, so you could have, you might have to get rid of some of that Ben Brereton.
I want a Raya Allison rotation. Yeah. That's what I want.
Exactly.
They rotate very well together, those guys.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good idea. So I think that there's, so I didn't really know what to say, except I need to start thinking about them like they're a kind of Man City level squad. I mean, maybe I'm going too far here, but I was just really impressed with them in this match. Yes. And I think that there's a lot to like fantasy.
Imperious.
The prices are, and the prices aren't crazy, right? Even Saka is way cheaper than similar options, including Cole Palmer, right? I mean, it's like you can get him for cheaper than all of those guys. So I think he's a real, he's a great buy.
Everyone was up for it. Zinchenko was even up for it. I had my doubts like 10 minutes into the match, and then he grew into it. And you could tell there, like the few moments that Wolves had a glimmer of light, Raya pulled out an amazing save. Everyone is rising to the occasion for Arsenal. So there you go. There you have it.
All right, Newcastle, Southampton. It's kind of a pass. I think Isak was fine. Honestly, could have had a second assist late. Harvey Barnes kind of screwed up a chance that he credit for him. And Anthony Gordon, what can you say? I thought the defense looked pretty good. All things, I mean, you know, it was Southampton, but it was still for 60 minutes. I thought they had a really strong defensive performance, given that they were without arguably their best center back. I think that the two young fullbacks look fantastic. Both look like good buys to me. Still a little worried about whether Trippier gets minutes, but I think it's still his spot to lose. You know, so we'll see. I mean, Livramento, that is.
Right. Yes. Same. Yeah. Nothing else to add there at all. Nothing.
Forest, Bournemouth. I think we sort of got what we expected here. Although again, Semenyo is. I think now Bournemouth did just sign a forward, right? And so we're not going to get like Semenyo is not necessarily going to be the kind of main man, but he had a fantastic season last year in the Premier League. You know, he's available as a 5.5 million midfielder, and so he's really an affordable buy. Like if you're looking to free up cash in your squad, I do think that he's somebody who's still worth looking at, right? I mean, he had a great season last year, even with Dominic Solanke, right, as the kind of central.
Yeah, you would argue he's more comfortable playing on the right, so he'll even benefit more than he has here against Forest within number 9 in there. I think the question is, you know, what's the ceiling for Bournemouth as a team right now? It's kind of unclear. They've got certain good players, some good players, like a couple of good players, great manager, but what's the sum of this at the moment? And where it's hard to tell.
I know, and it's going to take a while to sort of sort out what they look like post Solanke too. I thought Forest was, it was a shame. Obviously, they conceded late because I thought they played well otherwise, and it was maybe a bit unlucky for them to come out of this. Come to the match with just 1 point, but I think Chris Wood is kind of exactly what you want sometimes, which is a cheap forward who can deliver when playing inferior opposition, right? And find a nice run with Forest where they're playing teams that are mid-table and below, and he's a good buy, right? And so that's where I kind of am with Forest at the moment. And I thought, I don't know, like otherwise, I don't really know there's much to say about either one of these two squads. Right?
There was this incredible post from the Premier League on Instagram. It was just this picture of Nuno Espirito Santo, like looking very contemplative off into the distance, and a quote that says, "We are going to miss Danilo, not only on the pitch. We know him, always smiling, always joyful. We wish him all the best." And I'm just like, it's just a horrible injury, and we would never wish this on anyone. Horrible for his livelihood, his career, but they're acting like the man is dead, and it's very triggering to me. Like, the tone is off here. I'm the tone police, and I'm saying it's almost patronizing to Danilo.
Well, you're saying that's going too far. Okay,
they've gone too far. I'm telling you, with the social media these days, it's too much.
I know. Well, this is what happens when these players get injured early. I remember Luke Shaw. It was like I think there were talks that like they should cancel the season when Luke Shaw had that bad leg break a few years ago. Right? It was even more extreme.
Well, they just canceled one match day when the Queen died. So I was. What are you saying about Luke Shaw here?
Yeah, he's a leader of men.
King of the world.
And, he's a Genghis Khan. Like it's exactly. So it's he's a destroyer of worlds. So all right, well let's move on to West Ham Villa, the late match on Saturday. Watkins went off, I think, in the 60th minute or thereabouts, which is probably it wasn't even clear if he was going to start the match, right? And so but that's Ollie, right? And it doesn't get it. He's a minutes man. He's got to be like, is he the fittest player in the Premier League? It feels like he's got to be
likely,
there, right?
Yeah, he's up there for sure. I mean,
what do you have any takeaways?
Takeaways here. Well, Kudus was phenomenal. He was carrying that West Ham team at moments. Another takeaway is, I just dismissed my boy Thomas Souček. I said, I don't know. I don't
No
know if
more.
there's any room in the inn with Lopetegui here. Maybe Souček is going to get benched for some sort of like more progressive. Not that Lopetegui is a progressive manager, but there's a lot of young players coming into West Ham and old ones, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm digging myself a hole here. Souček was
progressive in his way.
Souček was good.
Yeah.
I thought Souček was great. He had his customary chances at the beginning and the end of the match. So I thought there were many things to feel good about West Ham, except for Areola, who was just doing Areola things. He was all over the place like Spider-Man. It was crazy. So I'm not sure about Areola as a pick.
Yeah,
like I was saying with Villa, I think Onana just, I didn't quite get it at Everton for him, but my God, I thought he was incredible in the midfield for Aston Villa.
Yeah.
So we just haven't seen the completed product for this version of Villa yet. And
I will say, I forgot that Kilman signed with West Ham, and it's really going to be quite a different team, I think, with Kilman, and then with you have to assume, yeah, exactly. You have to assume Wan-Bissaka starts. I think he might start as soon as game week 2, right? And if so, I think that's an interesting. It could be an interesting squad, right? Or an interesting defense, maybe. I don't know. It's kind of too early to tell. It's like, the new manager thing too. I mean, there's still kind of a stay away, I think, unfortunately. I know some people started the season with Bowen, and I'm just off West Ham for a while. I need a little. I need some time, Brandon. Maybe we all do. Maybe the world does.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I just enjoy at the start of every season seeing what new hair transplants Danny Ings has gotten after. He was looking incredible.
2 more matches. We have we're on the Sunday matches now. Brentford over Crystal Palace 2-1. And Bomo and Wissa, exactly the duo that was dominant at the start of last season when Tony was serving his gambling suspension. And so I love this Brentford team. I think they're well coached. They're I mean, fantasy wise, I don't know. There's not maybe we already talked a little bit about the keeper and Flecken, and I think that he was fine. I think that they're going to concede plenty of goals, but he also should get plenty of saves. And I don't know. You got to pick some 4.5 million guy. He feels completely fine to me. Like when I look at my squad, he's very low on like the things I feel like I want to fix right now, or the regrets I have about my game week 1 team. Yeah. And so I don't know. I mean, I think the defensively it's an away match opening weekend. I don't know, Munoz kind of immediately started doing Munoz things, right? I mean, the reason that you would pay 5 million for a Palace defender is because he's so attacking. So, and so you think that you're going to get enough attacking returns from him to make him sort of worthwhile at that price. I still think 5 million is a lot for a bottom half of the table defender, but I am
bottom half. Well, they finished in the top 10 last season, right?
Like 10th, maybe, right? Okay. You think they're like the 6th best team in the Premier League?
I don't know. I don't think it's the right way to frame Crystal Palace in this moment as a quote unquote bottom half. Technically
that includes 11th, all the way to 20th. So I'm not saying they're relegation fodder. I'm just,
Yeah, it was. I thought Glasner's setup was kind of crazy, and he played right into Brentford's hands by playing 3 at the back, and Mitchell and Munoz were pushed so far up as wingbacks that anytime Brentford released the ball, like they just had so much space wide, and of course Mbeumo is going to kill you, and it just happened time and time again. And Glasner he was just sticking to this like wingback formation that was not working, and I don't think Palace was able to control the ball with Will Hughes in the middle, and Wharton looked good, but he's just so young. I was totally perplexed by how Glasner decided to play this match, and he was just kind of gambling on just like sheer talent of players like Eze to get it done, and it's just it's going to happen again.
And Mateta, kind of same thing as Palmer and Watkins, where I think he got 45 minutes. I think he went off at halftime. And so I think the best is yet to come for Crystal Palace. Whether they're mid-table bottom. I should have said mid-table instead of that's a nicer way to put that. For a mid-table squad like them, it's a shame that Mbomo is really 0.5 million too expensive in my book. He's 7 million. He's probably a little. He's not underrated because 7 million is a UR rated price, but 7 million is a tough price for a squad that I don't necessarily trust to put up big numbers, especially in road matches, right?
They've got Liverpool at Anfield in game week 2, Southampton at home in game week 3, so you feel great about that.
Yeah.
Then it's City Spurs. It's a tricky path for Brentford.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. See if I'm still feeling good about Flecken after game week 5. It's really going to be
enjoy it while you can, my friend.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to enjoy those save points, but it worked out fine this time around. And then we talked a fair amount about the Chelsea Man City match. I don't really know if there's anything else to say. I thought that Chelsea looked totally discombobulated, even factoring in that they were playing Man City. It just feels like that squad is huge. There's going to be a lot of rotation. Nobody necessarily knows their roles. There's a lot of passes to people that I just like. There was like a moment late when they were making a play, and it was like, Dewsbury Hall, who came on late. It didn't, wasn't there last season. Passing to Neto, who joined, 72 hours ago. And they're all just, no one knows how to play together, right? And so it's like, it just feels like we're going to get last year redux, right? We're just going to get another year of a massive squad that takes the entire season to sort of come together and figure out what they do. And then they're going to sack the manager at the end, right? It's like, and so it's just like,
and so Maresca's reputation, as much as he has one as a manager, is he's a coach. He's not a manager. So you talk about this massive squad with personalities and guys who are just like, I have to do something crazy to get noticed in this giant squad. You have to have somebody with person skills to be able to work with all these guys at the levels at which they need that management. But he's just more of a coach, and that's a concern. That's a worry for Chelsea.
Gvardiol almost got a bonus point. Lost it at the end because Ederson nicked him by 1. But I think that he is. I think it was kind of interesting that they played this like 3-2-4-1 formation with 3 center backs. I don't think they'll play that style at home to Ipswich. In fact, I can almost guarantee it. And I think that there's a very good chance that we see. I don't know, like maybe Ake comes in as another center back, and then you play Gvardiol as a left wing back, right? And they sort of deploy a more attacking formation than they would have away to Chelsea, right? And so I think that I think this could be an amazing match for Gvardiol. And when he was one of the late drops in order for him to get Saka and Son into my team. Like, let's see if that was worthwhile or not. But in game week 2, I think that he is an incredible own. I would like vice captain material for game week 2. I just really think that he's going to have a lot of chances in the match. I think there's a very, very strong chance of a clean sheet in that match. And so I wish I had him, but
hard to disagree with any of that, Josh. There were some perplexing things about City, like Doku was just like, I described him as he's so fun to watch because he's just very unpolished, which gives him this sort of like rock and roll quality and unpredictable quality. But then you're like, oh, well, what's wrong with this guy? Oh, he lacks polish. So it's kind of like it gives and it takes the Doku way.
Yeah, it's a style that we like. There are a few players who do this style, and it's fun to watch them play, but it can be kind of maddening at the same time. So he had that amazing run I think it was in the second half, right, where he went through everybody, floated through the box as a style, and then had nowhere to go, right? He literally just passed it behind him to a Chelsea defender, and that was the end of it. Yeah,
it's nuts having like watching Haaland through all these matches. It's just like the play moves, the ball moves, and Haaland is just waiting. He's waiting for the moment to run to the back post. That's really the excitement that you get watching Erling Haaland. Is like, when is he going to make a break for the back post?
Yeah, and it was it's true. Even the opening goal was like, I mean, it was fantastic because you and I captained him, but it was like he didn't like. Yeah, it was like it always feels like a little bashful now when he scores. He's like, I know, like obviously I was going to score. It's like everyone here knew what was going to happen. You know, so I can't go over the top with my celebration.
He has basically has he hate me on the back of his jersey.
Yeah, exactly. So let's now look ahead to game week 2, Brandon. You and I both have Holland, so he's obviously the easy captain. There's a question from Caleb who asked, do either of us activate the triple captainship for Holland this week? I don't want to, but it's almost for like emotional reasons. I think he's probably a worthwhile triple captain pick for game week 2. I just if it didn't work out, I feel like it would sort of put me in a funk for the next like 30 weeks, and so I just don't want to. I can't risk the funk, Brandon. So I'm just gonna go without.
FPL doesn't really work like this. I understand, but go with me on this metaphor. You know, watching a lot of track and field and the Olympics, you watch the like the 1500, the like the quasi distance runs, and you see the favored runners typically run a race in which they stay with the pack. They know that they have the endurance and then the speed in the final lap to just get beyond everyone. So why run from the front? And that's what wins gold medals. I don't want to run from the front. And so I feel like playing the triple captain on Holland in game week 2, it's your moment to like maybe push forward and run from the front. But I choose to stay with the pack and look to have that burst of pace near the end of the race. Now, points are points. Whether you get those points in game week 2 or game week 38, it technically doesn't matter. But this is my theory. Are you muted, Joshua? I can't hear you.
Yeah, I am muted. Thank you, Brandon.
There you
Sorry
go.
about that. I was trying to think of that. I actually was talking like that whole time. Who was the American in the 1500, right? Who came on late?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
That's what we want to beat. Exactly. Yeah. So maybe actually I won't even use it this year. That's how late I want to wait to use the triple captain, Brandon. I might just hold off. Use it in the summer. You know, we'll use it for what do we have? Like we got that. What is that cup called? Like when it's like the cup they do the year before the World Cup. There's like it's like the, you know what I'm talking about? It's like the FIFA Confederations Cup or something like that.
I just assumed you were going to use it to watch the great Kurt Russell movie Captain Ron 3 times.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I could do that too. I mean, I'm a big Martin Short fan. That sounds like a fantastic idea. So so we're both going to captain Holland. We're not going to triple captain him. The Football Genius said, I'm on an aggressive strategy to free hit game week 2 and wild card game week 4. So what would be your free hit squad? I'm targeting a triple up on City, Liverpool, Spurs. Now, I don't want to go through a full 11 here, but yes, I think we talked about Gvardiol. I think, triple on, I think Liverpool, Spurs, Man City. I mean, Spurs, it's hard to talk about, again, because we just haven't seen them play yet, but that seems very reasonable to me. I think I would probably, if I was free hitting or even just kind of looking for cheap transfer options, I do think that Mooney's and Emile Smith-Rowe are both excellent transfer targets for this week. They're almost anybody can afford them, right? Like if they're fairly easy to fit into your squad. I think Mooney's is 0.5 million more than João Pedro, right? But if you have the money, then I like that. I don't mind that transfer either. Although if I had Pedro, I probably would hold for one more week just because it's a home match in game week. In game week 2, and he had a couple of chances in the Everton match. He didn't it wasn't, he didn't totally he was not terrible in that match.
Did we talk about Dominic Calvert-Lewin? What are we talking about?
João Pedro.
Oh, João Pedro. Sure. Yeah. Brighton is like an object lesson to Chelsea. Like, here's how to have a bunch of players and to actually just like win football matches. It's very cool. It's very cool to see. Well done, Brighton.
I think that I would not be surprised if we saw Wan-Bissaka get his his first start on Saturday next week, especially because Crystal Palace are hosting West Ham, and you could see Wan-Bissaka being a real effective counter potential. It was trying to be an effective counter to Eze, right? On I guess what would be his right, Brandon. What is that? Stage left, or stage
Mm-hmm.
right, whatever. And so I think that could be an interesting battle. I guess it'd be Eze's left and Wan-Bissaka's right.
So I'm sure Wan-Bissaka's gotten over the fact that he used to play at Crystal Palace. Or will he be awed by the occasion? We just don't know.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, that's true. If he scores a goal, I guess I'll have to do one of those non-celebrations.
I mean, yeah, because it will be an experience he's not had before, so he won't know what to do.
If he scores his first career goal, then it'll be a great celebration.
He's probably scored a goal. I don't know.
I'm sure he has. Yeah. Stephen Curtis said, thoughts on Barco? Do you hold it and write it out till a wild card, or you sell to avoid the price drop? I think you just hold and stick them on your bench, and it's just like wasting a transfer on a 4 million defender to another 4. Like, it sucks because you probably are going to lose 0.1, but it's just not worth it to me, right? Like it's because like you're not necessarily going to use that 4 million because it's not like you would sell him to free up money for somebody else, or I don't know. It's a tricky one. Yeah.
It's not fun because you have to admit that you now have a player on your bench who is useless. Yeah. And you've made a mistake, and you're going to look at your team and you're going to see him and you're going to be like, whoops, that was a lot of hype that didn't really pay off.
Yeah. Every year there's one of these players. He's this year's player, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. It's probably better strategically to just park him on the bench. However, you must admit that he is useless to you now. So if you've got nothing else to do, go for it. Get rid of it. There's nobody else at 4.0 that you want. So that furthers the idea.
Like wasting a transfer on Harwood Bellis, right? It's just not worth it. He does seem, by the way, like probably the best 4 million to own. He's going to get minutes. I don't know. He got a yellow card. I don't know. Maybe he's at yellow card suspension risk.
You can't win the lotto unless you buy a ticket, Josh.
All right, last question. This is one of those, like, we got to lift listeners up, Brandon. It's not as bad as some years you have game week 1 and people are like, help, and I think there was just, everyone got just enough this week, right? Just enough to keep you going. Enough returns. Even Isak, disappointing, but you got the assist. You can explain it away, right?
That when we as New Yorkers, that feeling when you get down to the subway platform and it's clear that a bunch of people on the platform are kind of like, where's the train? They're like a little confused and a little cautious, but there is this sort of like level of somebody says, well, it's coming. Like, I can see it. Yeah. I feel like that's where we are coming out of game week 1 is everyone's kind of meandering around the subway platform, not knowing when the train's going to arrive, but they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I was
like when Lions coach Dan Campbell, when the Lions were on Hard Rocks, had this famous line. It was like, sometimes like when people start, I actually am sort of, more than anyone would know how commonly I do this, which is I start a sentence without actually knowing where I'm going with the sentence, and I try to just sort of figure it out as I go through the sentence. Dan Campbell said he was trying to motivate his players, and he said, "The light at the end of the tunnel is a freight train." I'm like, I don't know what that means. It seems like
I read that as you're gonna die.
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't want to give that message to our listeners after game week 1. Maybe, I mean, it is, sadly it's true for all of us, but hopefully, hopefully, I mean, true for you, obviously, because
like a bag of bones over here.
Yeah, exactly. So he said, Al Haro says, do you think this week was a statistical outlier? Algorithms have my team at over 90%. See, this is okay. You and the algorithms are like those announcers in VAR, okay? You're going to find a way to deal with it. So algorithms have my team at over 90% and nearly 70 points, and instead I'm below the average score and ranked about 4.5 million overall. So any thoughts there, Brandon?
So the question asker believes he lives in a reality that he shouldn't because the computers say otherwise. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I think it's a good chance to remember that there's no, no one actually has future vision, right? We don't live in the thought crime, world
Minority
Report. Not yet, it's coming. But until we can look into the future, it's all just guess and projection, and it must be treated accordingly. This is why this is why it's fine to look at algorithms, and they are incredibly reliable. More reliable than us just kind of looking at things and using our opinions. But they're still just inferring, right? And it's just a good reminder that, like, even a player that is, the most favored goal scorer in a particular game week is still at something like 55% to score, right? It's just that it's even, there's no guarantee ever that a goal is going to be scored in a match, right? They're all sort of unique. It's not like basketball where you're going to get both, a team's going to score 50 baskets.
This is why we love it,
right? Yeah, exactly. They're all unique.
Yeah. And so, okay. So just to come back around and be like, yes, I accept that we live in a world of algorithms and mathematics and all of that. You have to, if the algo says you should have been well above the average, then presumably if we go into game week 2, 3, 4, your overall rank is going to go up. Like, you're starting at this like variance that has brought you down. And FPL is just like famously full of variance. So it's feels bad to start at the low end, at the bad end of the variance, but you have to believe that if you're trusting these models, that it will carry you through and balance out over the long run.
Yeah. Otherwise, just start getting ready for 25, 26. Just pack it in.
Honestly, like start prospecting for go to the championship, start scouting the best players that you think are going to come up next season.
Exactly. So there's the season is and I mean this in the best way, but the season is a grind. You've got to remember that it's we're not even 1/38 through the season, the season yet, right? We still have another match tomorrow. So 380 matches. We've played 9 of them so far. So there's a lot more chance of the algorithm to help or disappoint you. Let's leave both options open. Sometimes I feel like it is an algorithm season. Sometimes it's more of a feel season, and we'll see what we get this year, right? Maybe it'll be a little bit of both. Like, who knows? All right. Well, let's end it there, Brandon. How about this? Finally, do you have any X dog in him picks this week? Who's got that dog in him, Brandon, going into game week 2? Anybody for you that's could be fantasy, could be just a player you want to see do well this week?
Yeah. I mean, I think the xDIH carries over from the Newcastle match, and Barrington Diaz. We talked about me having the guts to actually start him, but I think old Ben is, and I could see him. I could see him in a Jedi cloak, perhaps. And it would take an Anthony Robinson to just like level him in the center circle. A true Jedi battle there. But I'm going Barrington Diaz as my ex-dog in him. What about you, Josh?
I like that pick. I thought maybe I would go with the entire Ipswich squad. I think that they score a goal this weekend. I think that Ipswich. I actually thought in some ways they had a nice performance, and I think Liverpool's overall kind of firepower won out in the end. But I felt like it was I thought they seemed like a competent squad. Like they knew how to play together. It just didn't quite, it was too much in the end.
What do you think about your man Leif Davis?
I don't have a strong opinion. I watched the whole. I guess I didn't feel like I saw much from him. Like I don't. You like? Did you
I thought he was getting absolutely destroyed on the left-hand side. Like, it's like, this is not the championship, man. You can't just live in the opponent's half, like chucking in great crosses. If he has to defend, he looks, I guess that's true.
I was thinking about him. I was thinking about him from an attacking perspective, but so let's see Ipswich do something. I think the entire team has that dog in him. I don't think they win, but I think they maybe put up a little bit of a fight against Man City. So
cool. Let's see it. I'd love to see it.
That's it. All right. Well, that is your pod for this week. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks everyone who listened and watched with us on YouTube. If you're not a YouTube subscriber, you can go to youtube.com/ I guess it's @alwayscheating, and you can find and follow us there. If you want to support the podcast, that would be fantastic. You can go to patreon.com/alwayscheating. Once again, you can also get 50% off the hub. You go to fantasyfootballhub.co.uk/always. So lots of different ways to support the pod, or just use resources that'll make you get better at fantasy or enjoy it more. Brendan, do you want to thank our producer patrons?
Thanks as always to producers Mike DePietro, Trevor Ingerson, Dave Wagner, Lodall, our buddy Chris Howell, Andy Penn, Nick Wright, Lazarus Janos, Jesse Halstead, Bruce Kerr, Brian Chin. Thanks for joining the chat, Brian. Bobbas Kuhn, Rom Frost, Blair Jacobson, Todd Byerly, Andy Portlock, Dan Parsons, Terrence O'Donnell, Kerry Swanson, Jefferson Turner, Easy Does It, Eze Does It, Francis Moore, Sam Shower, Craig Jackson, Caleb Robbie, Brian Clark, Thomas Tislov, Fro Jacobson, The Saint, Gareth H., Shalin F. Kadakia, Rishi Nigam, Noah and Louise, Travis Grant, Linus Vennerstrom, Matthew Skinner, Ben Coombs, Eric Kite, Rune Sandberg, James Murray Wood, James C., James Holland, the three Jims, all in a row, and Jack. 3 Jims and a Jack. I love that. Rate, review, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Follow us on social media wherever you get that. And go to our website, alwayscheating.com.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And we'll be back next week. Bye. All right.